president is also on top of it, chief commander-in-chief. And so we must be able to support the president to get this over.
Okay, Malaki, many have said that what is required is, like he just said, for Nigeria to come together as one nation. The same way that Nigeria faced Ebola.
That's it.
Nobody cared whether you were PDP or APC, Muslim, Shekiri, Yoruba, Igbo. We all joined hands as one nation and fought Ebola and drove it out. Do you think it is possible for us to take politics out of this matter and face the issue, take it on head on, this issue of security? Because indeed, some states may not have elections come February 2015 because of this matter.
I've made that statement, and I still stand by it. And when I used the expression hoping against hope, I
want to solve that.
I was not sounding alarmist. I would have been persuaded that I was wrong, like my colleague said, if indeed he was able to discountenance that indeed we are merely hoping. And that is the trust he talks about, that given the experience we have had in the past, we have a way of reinventing our hope in circumstances that looks hopeless. That does not, demobilize my own statement. Now, let's get back to the question you have asked. Going memory lane, and that's part of what he said. Let's imagine and understand how all of this started. First, Nigeria as a country was in the state of denial. And I'm not going to mention Professor Akoyele because she's dead now. She was then the Minister of Information when this whole thing started. Consistently, for more than 4 months, it was that, no, it is not an insurgency, it is not a terrorist invasion of Nigeria, that we are not that kind of nation. Not that there were merits then, as at that time, because we haven't had it in the past, but what eventually turned out to be, created the impression that if we were more circumspect in at least diagnosing the problem as at that time, chances were that the factors and the variables that would have been dealt with as at that time would have been handled differently. Because of that state of denial, we made mistakes. And I tell you, part of leadership is judgment. If the leadership has consistently made wrong judgments, that leadership cannot be excused for the consequences of those wrong judgments. That is one. The other is to say that if you think that there is no politics in this, you would also be undermining what the politicians have also been able to do with the crisis itself. Including, of course, that, yes, I agree, the sovereignty of this nation resides in the people. By the same token, the people can galvanize, mobilize their collective will, because indeed that is the sovereignty, the will of the people, to defeat any form of challenge. Not even Ebola. Ebola is medical, scientific. These ones are physical. You can deal with it. And as a lawyer, I'm not trained to deal with hopes, sentiments. We go to a court of law to deal with facts and evidence. Court of law is not a court of hope or sentiment. So when you toe that line, I respect your view, but I'm afraid it is difficult for me to wake up each day realizing that if 15 lives are mercilessly taken in Northeast these days, it's no longer news. If you record a bloodshed killing about 20 people these days, it doesn't make any serious news. And we've been in this for a very long time. And that was why I made my preliminary statement, to say that when the hierarchy of the military announced to the whole world that eventually there is a peace deal, we were very, very excited. Any Nigerian who wasn't probably is also a sympathizer of the insurgents. But you know what? It seemed as though all had not been concluded when that announcement was made. Because the next morning, and consistently up to yesterday, there have been activities that suggested that nothing indeed happened. That is a fact. Whatever we will make out of it by believing that, well, the southern group will always get to what they want to do if they continue to infuse fears and then undermine constituted authority, that's a different kettle of fish. The fact is that lives are continually lost on daily basis. And the elections coming, I'm afraid, cannot hold in those places. Because as I hear it, traditional rulers in the affected areas, residents, all scampering into safety in droves. And so I have a feeling that part of the way to also encourage ourselves is not to tell us stories that also undermine the hope we are trying to build. If we are also able to articulate the position in such a way that those who are, at the helm of affairs will find a way of realizing that, look, to a large extent, the people are becoming despondent. And that if there were nothing, if there was something they weren't doing, they should, as a matter of urgency, be able to deal with all the factors that are confronting this situation. I think it will be very uncharitable to think that, I don't know, perhaps some of them have military training. I don't have. I didn't know how to sustain that hope. In the face, well, that was also not a military training. If you call it a paramilitary training, I will hear you. But I know I was never taught how to handle a gun or how to deal with a
let me take this to Dr. Jogo. Why is it somewhat difficult to come to an agreement to end this? I mean, to have a dialogue. Many have said, let's go the way of dialogue. If we say we're having issues combating this because they're using human shields. What about dialogue? And why is it difficult to come to that point of that agreement?
Let me start by using my friend here. He's a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, but the legal profession is premised on deductive and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is simply mathematical. Inductive reasoning is intellectual. Do you get it? And in that intellectual aspect is what makes lawyers to be able to defend a criminal and he's set free. In that case, you wouldn't be able to say that, look, the judge should have foreseen that, look, this guy is using his intellectual ability in inductive reasoning in defending a criminal and making the criminal to go free. And after 10, 15 years before it comes to be seen that the person was actually a criminal. Doesn't it happen? Yeah. It happens, isn't it? But in the deductive reasoning and mathematical issue, you can simply say, look, if A equals B, B equals C, then A equals C.
So deductive,
in this
how
aspect,
can we come
no, that is what I'm coming to. If you have been in a situation, you know the background of a people, so peace-loving, so caring, being your neighbor's keeper and everything, would you have ever contemplated that a young girl in the Nigerian society would tie explosives around her waist and will go into a school and will exploit it? Let's be honest to ourselves. Will anybody a few years back ever conceived it? Is it possible for you to even predict it? Well, is it possible for you to say that, look, the military could have identified those kind of people, prevented them from doing so, and fished them out from the very place? Look, in this place here, in the front here, I once said that, look, there was failure of intelligence. I knew how I was taken on that. But there are situations whereby we also have to give our security agencies some credit, for God's sake. Security is for every single person. If you go to a village, as they have told me, where you have conspiracy by the very villagers themselves, the very people they are trying to protect, they give out information to even the people that are killing them. Those people collaborate. Even in the armed forces, some that have joined, you even have those who are betraying the cause of what is being done. Is it easy for you to predict and know that the next military man standing by your side is going to betray you and is actually a traitor? It is not so easy to determine that.